If you have a little one and you're going to Walt Disney World, you're going to need a stroller. I'll tell you what, KingdomStrollers.com is the place where you want to look into. I'll tell you, I've destroyed my fair share of strollers while at Walt Disney World, and those things are not cheap. But getting something from KingdomStrollers.com, they'll be able to help you pick out the perfect stroller for you. And the nice part is that because they're a Disney preferred provider, they'll be able to drop it off and pick it up right from your Disney resort at no extra charge. So if you don't want to necessarily destroy your stroller in the process and you want to have a great Disney vacation with your little one, contact KingdomStrollers.com and they'll set you right up. That's KingdomStrollers.com. Do you want to save around 40% off Disney's prices for deluxe on-property accommodations? Contact DVC-rental.com. They help out Disney Vacation Club owners rent out points that they're not going to use. These points mean savings for you on your next trip at Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Vero Beach, Florida, and Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. The DVC member books everything in your name, just like any other reservation. And if you ever decide that you want to become a DVC member, you can check out our sister company, BuyAndSellDVC.com. As a licensed realtor, they sell DVC contracts for members at a savings of 30 to 40% off Disney's prices. And if you're looking to sell your contract, BuyAndSellDVC.com has one of the industry's lowest commissions at only 6.5%. Again, that's DVC-rental.com for your rental needs and BuyAndSellDVC.com to buy or sell into the Disney Vacation Club at a large discount. And make sure you tell them that the Behind the Ears podcast crew sent you. Hey everybody, it's Mr. Chris, and I got to tell you about Expedition Roasters. Listen, I'm a pretty big coffee drinker, just like a lot of you are, but these people have got coffee right. Their coffees are made from selectively sourced premium and specialty grade Arabica beans. They provide the absolute best flavor and aroma, and select roast even come directly from a single estate farm for a truly perfect cup that is never bitter. They've got awesome Disney-inspired flavors such as Roundhouse Roast, Route 66, Skipper's Brew, Dark Side Roast, Redhead Rum, and one of my favorites, Bob Slitter's Brew. Listen, if you want to have the taste of Disney in every cup, give them a try today. Expeditionroasters.com, and Behind the Ears podcast listeners gets an extra 20% off your first order by using the coupon code EARS20. That's right, EARS20. And you can find them over at Expeditionroasters.com. Brew your happy place. Coming to you live from our studios on the East Coast and in the Midwest, it's the Behind the Ears podcast, because everybody does Disney differently.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Ears podcast. I am Uncle Danny. That is Mr. Chris. This is Behind the Ears podcast. You can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday. I almost forgot what days we go live. Right here on Facebook and or YouTube nowadays. We're getting fancy in our old age. Mr. Chris, how are you?
I am doing absolutely stupendous on this fine Tuesday. How are you doing today?
Doing well. First day back to work. That's always fun. But at least I got to spend a week in sunny Central Florida. I got to meet up with some fantastic listeners while I was down there. I got to hang out with the lovely Lindsay for an entire week. We got to do a gender reveal with Jess and Nick on Main Street while I was down there. And lastly, I got to hang out with, I did it again. I point the wrong way every time. Every time I do this. Got to hang out with this lovely fella right here and his fantastic family in Disney World. We'll dive all into that, but how are you, sir?
I'm almost recovered. I'll be honest with you.
Did Jess get you sick?
No, actually, I was.
You sounded sick on your broadcast. That's why I say.
No, I've really just been kind of recovering just from all the fun. It was one of those things where, I drove home and I saw you last on Friday, and I didn't get home until I was supposed to get home sometime really late Saturday night. And the thing is, it's that we were hoping to get home about 8 or 9 o'clock. Saturday night. Ended up getting home at 12:30 Sunday morning. Dude, I came home through...
Wait, the full day Sunday?
No.
Like 12:30 in the morning. Okay.
Like 4 hours later than anticipated, which doesn't sound like a lot in the whole scheme of things. But let me tell you something. The last 5 hours of the drive was dealt with torrential downpour to the point where I couldn't see the road.
Oh, boy.
A 50-mile-an-hour crosswind across I-65 at the same time as the downpour. By the time I hit Indianapolis, there was 2 inches of snow on the ground, fresh snow that they just plowed off. And finally got north of Indianapolis, and the road was dry, but I had still that 50-mile-an-hour crosswind that was pushing me all over the highway. And so by the time I finally got home, and I slowed it down a little bit, by the time I finally got home, I was beat. Man. It was just, it was absolutely horrible. But I'm really glad to be back. It seems like people missed us too, and we missed you guys as well. It's been really cool. And, you know, Danny and I, just to let everybody know, Danny and I did not necessarily plan our spring break trip to purposely correspond at the same time. It just kind of happened to be that way. Which is cool. I mean, it was really nice to hang out with Danny. I got to meet the lovely Lindsay as well. And let me go ahead and tell everybody something.
No, boy.
So let me tell you a little something. Lindsay is as cool of a person as Danny actually says she is. And I think that is really neat. She is a wonderful person. I'm going to go ahead and say, Mr. Chris approved, you know, for what it's worth, everybody.
Definitely my better half. I don't lie about that.
Oh yeah, she's wonderful, Danny. She really is. So, you know, it's one of those things about everything that it was just really an awesome trip. But there's some news and stuff like that. I know we probably want to touch on a little bit. Do you want to touch on the news, or do you want to talk a little bit about our trips first? What would you like to do?
I want to touch on the trip in the beginning because we always tend to run that long. And I don't mind breaking it into two things because there's a couple things in the news that I lost my bananas on.
Go for it. I know that wasn't very appealing. Yeah, back from vacation, baby.
No, not back from vacation. Are you kidding me? That never stopped while we were on vacation. The dad jokes don't stop.
No.
All right, you know what? Let's just do the news first. Let's get this out of the way.
All right. News.
We used to have a cool thing.
Yeah, I forgot to set it up. So.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't know if it was still active or not. Okay, so let's touch on, obviously, this slew of things that broke in one day.
Yeah.
So let's start with, I think, the one that really no one cared about and didn't seem to get much traction because it was a little slippery.
That's a slope that you can go down.
They're talking about no dry ice or bagged ice, which I'm not really sure who's bringing dry ice into Disney, but I'm sure if they had to put it in there that way, people have done it.
Either that or they said to themselves, well, if we tell them no ice, we better also tell them no dry ice, because then they're going to say, but it's not really ice, it's dry ice. But if you think about it, someone said the no ice rule was mainly for security purposes, and also I can understand one thing. If you start putting dry ice in coolers to get around the ice, no ice in coolers, that stuff will burn you. And so,
yeah, no, dry ice is no joke. I handle dry ice on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Dry ice is no joke. Simply put it this way, they don't want any extra water on the ground that could possibly cause a slip and fall, and they can get sued. And lastly, let's be real. They didn't come out and say this, but this has been the general understanding, is they truly don't want coolers in the park.
Yeah.
They want to limit the coolers. And especially with Star Wars opening up, it just takes too much time to go through them. People are sneaking things in. I read an article the other day. Granted, I'm not going to say the name of the article because I can't prove if it's true or not. But people were bringing full bottles of liquor, hard liquor, into the parks at the bottom of their cooler. What you do is you put a little bit of ice, and you put the bottles, you put more ice, put some sandwiches, couple bottled waters, and then the security guard looks and, oh, you're good to go. And they had full bottles of liquor. So no more ice, dry ice, anything of the sorts. Don't, you watch, they're probably going to come down with a cooler size as well.
Well, they already have a cooler size, basically.
Yeah, but I think it's going to get even smaller is what I'm saying.
I could see that. I can actually see that happening. I mean, all I know is that they weren't necessarily enforcing the cooler rule as well as they should, because it's supposed to be no hard-sided coolers. Yet, I got behind somebody in line at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and they were rolling around a small, hard-sided cooler that probably that could actually fit like maybe a 6-pack of cans. So it was small, but it was also on wheels, and it had a handle, and he was pulling up behind him. Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, how the heck they get that through security? I just don't get it. So now I bet you dollars to donuts, they're going to really start cracking down on a lot of this stuff. So
I mean, at the end of the day, that one really shouldn't affect the majority of people. The two that caused equal outrage would be simply the stroller size. Right. We're gonna it was basically a shot at Keen's without it being a shot directly at Keen's.
Right.
That's KEENZ. Right. They're the ones that basically made a wagon look like a stroller. And at the end of the day, I have to say this, I thought Disney went a little overboard on this one, and solely because of the fact it did meet all the requirements for the size. So then it's kind of like, well, what's, because then you get into the idea of what's the difference between a stroller and a wagon. That people say, well, you pull a wagon, you push a stroller. But I watched Keen's came out with an apparatus that you hook on the back and you push it like a stroller. So They were following. Now, granted, you can call it the gray area, you can call it loopholes, but they found a way to hit every criteria. They weren't breaking rules. They followed what Disney said. Yes, it's open air. There's really no seats in it. So it's all very wishy-washy on it. But basically, the whole stroller restriction, no wagons, was basically a shot at Keen's, the company. And I'm going to see how they respond. We heard a lot of mixed reviews coming out of them. They posted a report. Then they pulled the report. They're guaranteeing people's money back. And then they're kind of backtracking on that one. At the end of the day, I think the ball's in Keen's court now to basically come up with a way to get around this next step. It's going to be a logistical nightmare. Now, granted, any people that have children that are disabled or a special handicap, you could still go through Disney and you could still get the proper paperwork lined up where your stroller or wagon or whatever we're going to call it today will fit into the guidelines. If you have any questions, don't come ask us. Because at the end of the day, you don't want our opinion. Go to Disney directly, because then if something happens, I don't want you saying Uncle Danny and Mr. Chris told me that it was okay. My name carries some clout, not enough.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Someone asked earlier what it means for our partner, Kingdom Strollers. And I actually just looked up on their website, and a little pop-up came up that basically said all of the strollers that they offer fit Disney's new guidelines. They don't offer Keen's wagons and this, that, and the other. They never have. So, as far as I know, I should say. So, if you go through KingdomStrollers.com, they're going to be able to hook you up with something that's going to be compliant to Disney's new rules. So, that answers that question that popped up a little bit earlier in the comments feed. I got to tell you this. I got to tell you a funny, Danny. So, we were walking through Epcot this last Monday, or not, a week ago, yesterday, I should say. And we were over by the Mickey topiaries where you go in from Future World to
right into World Showcase.
Right, World Showcase. There was a family that had a Keen stroller. They had a small girl, maybe 3 years old, really small girl. And she had a harness on, kind of a tether harness. What made this different is that the parents attached her to the Keen stroller. And then she started running away with the stroller, with the Keen's wagon in tow. Think about that for a minute.
But you can make the argument that if she was tethered down to a regular stroller, it would have done the same thing.
Yes, a very true thing. But I'm gonna laugh. It was just the funniest sight in the world.
Oh, it was probably hilarious because I've watched them wrap their way around parents' legs. I can only imagine seeing the stroller now chasing the child. I see people saying they take up too much space. They're tripping in traffic hazard. Here's the thing, though. They didn't take up any more space than the stroller did because they were the exact measurements that Disney said. So the size thing didn't make sense to me. The tripping in traffic hazard, people are tripping in traffic hazard, in my opinion. Nick had one lady in a wheelchair run him down. You weren't here for this.
No.
I got into a verbal argument with a woman in a scooter. And now either she did not speak English or chose to ignore me. And at first, I didn't mind it. She came up on me hard. Nick yelled for me to get out of the way. I didn't say anything. Okay, it's happily ever after. People are a little crazy during that time. But then she tried to pull into the section where the people were going. And the lady, the cast member said, ma'am, you can't pull this in here. You have to go around the other side. She just started reversing. So I had my hands in the back of her chair because I am now right behind her. So she stops. As I'm moving out of the way, she goes right into Lindsay. So I pushed Lindsay out of the way. And now I'm yelling because now you are just being disrespectful. So it goes to show, and I've literally walked in the back of people during this trip who just decided they wanted to stop and take a selfie or stop and look at their map, whatever the case is. So the whole tripping hazard thing, is it any different than a scooter? Any different than a human being? Is it any different than the kid pulling the stroller on his tethered, leash? I don't know. I don't understand why this came into play. I get the whole idea of where everybody's going to go and say it's because of Star Wars, the influx of people. I don't know if I buy that, though.
The thing is, though, is that it's kind of one of those things where Disney has provided a set of dimensions, a very specific set of dimensions. And most double-wide strollers will fit those dimensions. Most double-wide jogging strollers, I should say. And I put it like that because they are quite wide, they are quite large, and they will still fit in those dimensions. I don't necessarily have a problem per se with the Keen's wagons. I do think they take up a lot of space in of themselves, but I think that they're also looking forward to trying to limit the amount of stuff that's actually brought into the parks, especially like you said, people were hiding things in coolers. I mean, I'm sure you can hide things within those Keen strollers or wagons as well. The thing is that also someone actually our friends over at Expedition Roasters actually mentioned, there's absolutely no room for the amount of strollers in Disneyland. At least Walt Disney World has some room to accommodate them. And I honestly think the rule for the Keen's wagons kind of fall into a little bit of this category. There's not as much room at Disneyland and California Adventure for those particular types of wagons. But the problem of it is that it's almost like they're trying to standardize, right? What's good for one is going to be good for the other, or whatever rule you put in for one place, you have to put in for the other. And it makes a little bit of sense that, granted, it's like, well, why are you punishing those that go in Florida for those, in California? Because the park is much smaller. The park is much more congested, and the park is going to get extremely much more congested once Galaxy Edge opens up over there.
But see, I disagree with that in the idea of, it's a smaller footprint in Disneyland compared to Disney World, but we see a larger influx of people at Disney World than you do at Disneyland. I mean, not even talking about the bottlenecks. There was points on, where did we go on? Oh, on Sunday when we first arrived and me and Lindsay made it to Magic Kingdom, you couldn't move. When I say to you, you could not move during certain parts of that day, you could not. It came to the point where I looked at Lindsay, I was like, yo, listen, I know this is our first day, but I got to get out of this park because I'm going to lose my mind. And it's not that even, it wasn't even over the fact of, oh, people are being dumb. There was just that many people in what we think is Disney World is a very large space. But there's a lot of people with not a lot of walking room. Now, and I get the whole idea with strollers take up all that, but I don't know. To me, I'd almost rather the stroller than have the little kid trying to walk next to their parent. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't have kids, so I can't say whether this ban of the Keen stroller. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. I thought that's how it's.
It's Keens. It's
Keens,
whether or not it's a stroller or a wagon. I think we're just using it interchangeably at this point, and that's fine. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just at the end of the day, it didn't affect me directly, so I had a tough time agreeing with Disney with this one, saying like, oh yeah, like that's a good one. Like all these rules, the ice one, once again, like okay, cool, I can jump on board with that if it's a slip issue, a safety hazard, if your people are sneaking things in, that's cool, I get it. But the stroller thing, I was kind of like wishy-washy, like I didn't really know where to stand on it. I guess I was kind of leaning more towards the people than I was the company. This one, next one. Okay, so I know me and Chris are going to be very different on this one.
Which one?
The last one.
Oh, the last
one that you knew was going to ruffle my feathers.
And I okay, let me just go ahead and say this. I'm going to step back. Go right ahead. You have every right in the world to say what you're going to say.
It is absolute. Okay, no. Let me start. Let me start nice.
Take a deep breath.
It is within Disney's right to do this. They are even though they are a publicly traded company, it is still private property. They can tell you what you can and cannot do. And if you do not want to do that, you do not need to buy a park ticket and go in. That's a nice way. Now, I'm going to attack some people for a second. No one by name, of course. The people who say that they're no longer going to go to Disney because you can't smoke in the park, take a hike. You're kidding. That is a knee-jerk reaction, and you are just being a keyboard warrior at that point. Let's be frank about that. You're still going to go. For the husbands, because I'm going to say husbands because all the posts I have read all refer to their husbands and not the husband referring to the wife. I'm going to go to the husbands. Don't give your wife a hard time because now you can't smoke in the park. It's not her fault. It's not your kid's fault. Don't ruin that family vacation. You want to be mad at Disney and you don't want to buy any merch while you're there and you want to maybe change your reservation, stay off site. That is 110% your prerogative. But do not ruin a family vacation because you cannot smoke in the park. Now, that was my way of defending Disney and trying to keep it real for a second. Now, here comes the real part. It is literally the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my life. Why? This is all right. I get it. But you limited the smoking sections. Did I ever once complain to anybody about the fact that the parks had 3 smoking sections? Never once complained. Did I ever complain about how spread out they were? No. What did I always say? Disney does a poor job of picking their smoking sections because they always tended to be either in a main pathway where people and children came, women and children, and or near a bathroom. Those were my 2 gripes I always had with Disney. I said, you guys did not do the proper job in planning it. Now, to take it away is utterly ridiculous because, and I'm not throwing stones, but let's be real. How many times we walk in the park this week, Chris? I don't know about you, but I saw it a handful of times. People smoke where they want to smoke.
Yeah,
people didn't care that the smoking sections were designated. They wanted to smoke where they wanted to smoke. Now, those people are the problem. Those people are the reason why this is happening. Take note of what I just said. Flip it to the other side. What about the 99 percentile that followed the smoking rules? That made sure that they were in a smoking section, whether it was a vape or a or an actual cigarette, who made sure they did the right thing as often as they could. Now you're putting them in a pickle because one of 2 things is going to happen. You have a smoking section they're now going to put in the beginning of the park and the outside of all the parks, right? That's the new rule. No smoking inside the park. There'll be one at the entrance. Okay? So now you're going to have an influx of people waiting for bag check or magic band swipe who are now going to be smoking right in front of the park, which is now going to be 10 times worse because now it's not spread throughout the park. Now you have everybody in one spot. Okay. Second, you are going to see, and mark my words, Disney and whoever's listening, you will surely regret this in the fact of you will now have more people smoking in the park. You will now see more cigarette butts stomped out on the ground, or you will now see the people standing in the corner smoking a cigarette, and someone walks by and it's a cast member, and what are they going to do? They're afraid of getting in trouble, and they're flicking their cigarette. Just mark it. Just watch. Watch when this happens, and I want you to come back and be like, Danny, you were right, or Danny, you were wrong. And no, please, I'm reading some of the comments. Trying to tell someone that don't do it because it's not healthy, that's not the point here. We're not arguing whether or not this is a good decision by a human being to do. We're arguing the fact of, was it the right decision by the company? At the end of the day, the company could say, hey, listen, we're no longer serving water, and you have the option of not coming into the park. We will no longer have roller coasters. You have the option of not coming in the park. At the end of the day, you as an adult and someone buying their service have to follow their rules. It doesn't mean you have to like them, but it means you have to follow their rules. At the end of the day, we can't do anything about it. I don't agree with it, but I will follow their rules because that's just what you do. And if I don't want to follow the rules, then one of two things are going to happen. I'm either not going to be going back to that park, which is not going to happen because I'm going to go, or you're going to get in trouble and you're going to be asked to remove yourself. Those are your two options, people, for the smokers out there. It's literally that simple. Take it away, Chris, because I want to read some of these comments.
Sure thing. Do you actually see the comments on your side?
I have to open up. Okay. I had Facebook open, so I'm trying to read them.
Okay. So sometimes I'm not a smoker. As the saying goes, I only smoke when I'm set on fire. And there are some people out there that know me and they know that actually can happen. Well, when you start working on a rusty car and you start breaking out the blowtorch to take off rusty nuts. Oh yeah, that's right. Chris gets set on fire. So basically it's like this. I knew where the smoking sections were. There have been occasions where I would accidentally walk through the smoking sections. And that was my fault. I knew where the smoking sections were. Okay. They started smoking. I had no right to say anything. Those that were there, hey, they did what they had to do. I saw a lot of people vape. I saw a lot of people smoke in areas that were not designated as smoking areas. There was one woman that decided that it was a great idea to light up in the outside patio of the electric umbrella. And when she was told by a cast member to not do that and to put it out, you know, it was unfortunate that the guest kind of gave the cast member some lip. It was not fair. Eventually the cast member won out in enforcing those particular rules. I do think that there's going to be a lot of people that will probably end up going rogue a little bit. I think that, like you said, Danny, I totally agree. People that are saying that, no, they're not going to go back because of this, I do think it's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Ultimately, I think they'll think this through, plan it out. But at the same time, I think it's going to cause a little bit of rogue smoking. I really wish I understood the reason behind this rationale. I really did. I mean, outside, again, I'm not a smoker. I've never been a smoker. So I don't know the physiological effects of, being a smoker. But the fact of the matter is that I know that at least as long as I stayed out of the smoking section, I know if I stayed out of the smoking section, I wasn't going to smell like smoke. It wasn't going to impact me. It wasn't going to impact my family. I will tell you this. I smelt more vape scent. Is that a right? Is that a right thing?
Yeah, the flavoring.
Yeah, I smelt more of that this week than I did cigarette smoke, and that was because it was done openly where it shouldn't have been done. But I could smell, hey, it's vanilla. Hey, that's cherry. And I knew where that was. And to me, that stuff could actually set off allergies and this, that, and the other just as bad as cigarette smoke. And to be honest with you, I think John actually says it quite interesting way. And he's watching us over on YouTube. He says, at the end of the day, it'll all be forgotten about with no impact to the company. And, just like what I said, Mary did the same thing. I just avoided the smoking sections. They didn't get in my way.
I want to touch on one thing. I see a couple people going back and forth about this. So if you go through security with cigarettes, no, they are not going to make you throw them away.
No.
You just can't smoke them in the park. Right. You can bring them into the park because if you say you are say you stay at Poly and you're at Magic Kingdom for the day, there's going to be a smoking section outside of Magic Kingdom. They don't expect you to go back to your hotel, grab one cigarette, to come back to the front of the park to smoke it, to go back into the park. You are physically still allowed to carry it. You will not be asked you will not be removed them. Now, people said to me, okay, I saw another thing. Do you think you'll get thrown out? No. I am sure that they will ask you politely to put it out. If you are a habitual abuser of the system, yes, then I can see you being asked to leave. I do not think it's a 1, 2, or 3 strike policy. If I'm there for 8 days and I get caught 3 times doing it, unless you get caught by the same cast member and they remember your face, then I could see them asking for you to leave. But outside of that, no, I don't see them asking you to leave right off the bat.
Right. And I just also want to touch base. They are putting vapes in the same category as smoking. So if you're a vapor, and because those that used vapes were supposed to do it in the smoking sections as well. That's still the case. Let me rephrase that because I want to make sure I'm not confusing. They're going to be under the same restrictions. Yes, you can bring in your vape pen and this, that, and the other. You're still not going to be able to use it inside the parks. So it's just one of those things you have to take that in consideration. So, but no, they did not ban vapes. To the point where you can't bring them in. You have to use them in the designated smoking areas.
Yeah.
So,
and listen, I'm guilty of breaking some rules here and there. I'm not going to sit here and sit on my glass house and throw stones at other people. I will say this: I have never smoked a cigarette outside of a smoking area inside a park. I was very courteous of people doing that. Vape is a little bit different. But once again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm a patron saint when I know I'm not. I am part of the problem, I guess you could say. We'll word it that way. And the vape thing is only something very new where people are having a problem with it.
Yeah, but
it all. Okay, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, but you've never been a disrespectful smoker. At least
no,
at
but
least not around me.
I will occasionally pull out my vape. Listen, I'll do it. I don't care. See how small it is? You would have no idea. I'm not one of those now. I used to be one of the people that had the giant one.
Oh, yeah. Or you would basically go...
Yes, it looks like a giant fog machine, and this one happens to smell like bubble gum.
Ew.
I haven't used this in months. It sits on my desk. I have an unopened pack of cigarettes that have been sitting on my desk for 2.5 months now. Haven't touched it. This little guy doesn't really put out smoke. Doesn't really put out a smell. Have I been a bad boy? Sure, I have. But I would never do it standing in like the line for Frozen, like, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, yes, I am technically part of the problem. That's why I didn't want the rant to last long, because people who know me know they'd be like, Danny, what are you doing? You can't throw stones. I never thought it was the vape that was the problem. We're hearing more stories about it now. I thought it was more about the actual cigarette smell. And now, listen, I smoked for 10 plus years. I just recently quit. I can't walk around people who smoke cigarettes. to me, that the smell repulses me. And I always look at Lindsay. I'm like, I don't know how you did it. But the thing is I think it's a double-edged sword. I do believe part of it is Disney's fault and part of it is the consumer's fault. And that is not something because the rule came out. You can go back. We have 300 plus episodes. Go back. I've complained about Disney's smoking section for years. Now, listen, I saw people comment, I walk through the smoking section and I smell like a cigarette. You would have had to walk through a very large smoking section or stand in there for quite some time to be able to go back to your room and be like, I stink like cigarettes.
Well, yeah, I have to agree with that. And at the same time, like, okay, for a great example, over by Thunder Mountain, there is a nicely known smoking section. And it's kind of down.
Poor place.
I'm sorry?
Poor place.
It's poor placement. It really is. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't know it was a smoking section at one time. There was nobody there, but there were rocking chairs there. So I think at one time, and I was waiting for my wife and the kids to do something. I thought, rocking chair. I'm going to go sit here for a little bit. And I did one of my usual, 5-minute power naps type of thing, overlooking Tom Sawyer Island, Hug Fin Island. I don't know what you call it, but that's what I call it. And all of a sudden, I kind of wake up. I'm like, what? And I'm like, I'm in the smoking section. I have no reason to complain. I will move because I don't need to be here. I mean, I understand that part. And, I still didn't smell like smoke, but it was just one of those, it was one of those cases. So, it was one of those cases where, it's one of those cases where I had to be more aware. The thing is, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, some people are allergic to the vapes, smells, and flavors. I know I am for some of them. It causes a little bit of a sinus reaction. For my daughter, it's actually worse, but not as bad as smoke, but it can happen. And I think people have to understand it as well. By the way, Danny, everybody's glad that you're quitting smoking and you're just doing vaping type of thing, at least because I know you're trying to get off the habit altogether. Mm-hmm. And so people are there as well. I think some of these are actually kind of funny. Like Mike said, if people just want to complain about something, I've smelled body odor that gets stuck in my nostrils.
I've also smelled perfume and cologne. That's too much.
Like that.
And now I do see what Nicole from Happily Ever After saying. She goes, just a heads up, people like her are allergic to many of the vape smells and flavors. It also irritates her lung issues.
Right.
And those are the people I feel bad for. Because those are the people where this rule truly does help them.
Right.
At the same time, I have family members that cannot have very similar allergic reactions to the smell of certain things. And they just avoid certain things. Now, granted, I know Nicole is more speaking for the people with the giant, looks like a giant handheld bomb with their giant vape cloud behind them. Yeah, those are ignorant people. They're ignorant. That's literally the best word I could say on a PG show. You're ignorant.
The ones that look like they can be part of the steam train ride that's not running, but yet for some reason is going through over by Haunted Mansion. Yeah, and the thing of it is that listen, those who have allergies and stuff like that to smoke and to vape, we all know who we are. And, especially if we have some sort of asthma or other types of real reactions to it, we do try to, by the way, I don't have asthma. I'm saying we as in those who have allergies in general, people do try to stay away from those particular areas. A lot of people do carry inhalers and this, that, and the other to try to help prevent the side effects of such of those things. But the best way to not have it impact you is to try to avoid it. And I think a lot of people did avoid those types of things as much as they possibly can. So it's just one of those things.
Dragon papers. That's funny.
What?
I just don't like the notion. It's like some people are just a little too over dramatic, and they paint this cartoon picture of walking through a Disney smoking section like it's like Cheech and Chong, like where like you have to have like little windshield wipers on your eyes because it's so the smoke is so thick. Like, come on, that's not realistic, though. I mean, from someone who's been in that smoking section, I can tell you, everybody could see very clearly.
I have to say George's comment here. I had to stop my wife from passing the popcorn cart. She smelled like popcorn, which made me fat. George, you win the comment of the night. Do me a favor, send me an email with your address. I'm sending you a decal. Simple as that. Do that for me, would you?
Chris Hiller, our man on the street, I find it funny that they banned it everywhere besides Disney Springs. And I will tell you, I think the biggest place we're going to see, and now let's see if it stays in place until this time comes, but I think your biggest problem with people smoking is going to be food and wine.
I think so, too.
Why? Liquor changes people. Food changes people when they want their nicotine. You're not convincing people. I mean, I see people that are stone cold sober. Okay, put it this way. So me, Nick, and Lindsay. I was trying to think if Jess came on. She did not. No, that's right. You were not there with us. You had left already. We went on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. So Jess sat pregnant under the archways, right out there. Okay. Yeah. So she was tucked in where the strollers were.
Sure.
There was a gentleman sitting there on the phone. We put Jess down with all our bags. So we'll be right back. So we go on the ride. We come back and she tells us that the heavy-set older guy that was sitting right next to her, decided he just wanted to light up a cigarette. Started smoking the cigarette, and Jess kind of just looked at him like, now Jess doesn't care, but it was more of like, Jess is like, well, A, you're not in a smoking section, and B, dude, I'm pregnant. Like, what are you doing? So he looks at her and goes, oh, I'm sorry. Puts it out in the bush. Gets up, steps to the other side of the strollers. So 5 feet away, lights up another cigarette. These are the ignorant people.
I'm actually surprised that Jess didn't like go full auto on him. I mean, it's just, but speaking of which though, Trish actually made a really good comment. What about the scents in the resorts? Because that some of those resorts have some artificial scents.
Did you go to Disney Springs at all?
I did.
Outside of when we went? Okay, did you walk through the co-op?
I did.
Did they have their incense going in the middle? That was like the what is it? The vaporizer thing. It's like that square thing with all the smoke that comes out.
Yes, they had one going, and I did smell it from the moment that I actually walked in.
They had 7 the other day.
Oh my god!
All different flavors. I literally walk in. I'm like, Nick, I'm getting like mint, menthol, orange. I was like, does anybody else smell this? And everybody's like, no, I don't smell it. So I was like a bloodhound. I tracked this thing down. I'm like, oh, look at all this stuff. I like those. I think they smell very good. But after smelling a couple and standing there for a minute, I realized like, okay, like I need to back off a little bit. I was like, this is like, wait, no, Danny, bars are not having problems with no smoke. Bars are 110%. I don't know, John. It's not disrespect because you're not the only person that said it. There are a lot of bars having a problem with smoking. I ran a bar. Let me tell you, bars still have a problem. Maybe not the bar you go to. That could be, or if you don't frequent a bar, I'm not sure what you do in your free time. But I can guarantee you bars and restaurants. Not so much restaurants. I take that back. I have never really run into an issue at a restaurant. Bars, oh yeah. I've seen major issues with bars.
Yeah.
Especially outside bars. I live in a beach town, and every bar is very different. Some bars allow you to smoke on their deck while there's food being served and liquor being served. Other bars don't.
Yeah, that's the same here in Indiana. But the interesting thing to this is that there's going to be some changes coming down the pipe, and quite honestly, I'm trying to think of a nice way of putting this, only because to me, it doesn't bother me. Again, I'm not a smoker, so I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to have a stroller, so I don't have to worry about that. I don't usually bring a cooler in, so I don't have to really worry about that. But, the fact of the matter is that I know this caused an uproar. This triplet of change caused a serious uproar among many within a number of Disney communities. And I know that, there are some legit reasons to be able to have something as large as a Keen's wagon. I get it. The whole non-smoking thing. I mean, I think there was a lot of people that believe it was high time. But, I never had a problem with those that actually followed the rules. That was my big thing. I'm a rule follower. Danny, you know that.
Yeah.
I understand it. I understand that some things happen and people make decisions, and okay, that's fine. But that's one of the biggest things. I didn't have a problem with anybody following the rules. And it was kind of funny. I will tell you this in defense of smokers. My daughter I love my daughter to pieces, and she's very blunt when it comes to things like,
she is.
She's very blunt, and she'll walk past someone who's smoking, not in a smoking section, smoking kills, she'll do stuff like that. And, or, she'll be blunt and say, this is not a smoking section. My very petite 5'1", 97-pound daughter has no filter at times, and I love her for it. And the thing is that there was one time that we were getting ready to go past the smoking section. I could just see the little wheels churning in her head about what she's going to say next. I'm like, don't you say a frickin' word. And she looked at me. I'm like, that's the smoking section. Those people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. You leave them alone. And she just kind of she kind of looked at me. She's like, I like, just shh, let's walk past quietly.
Don't disturb them in their natural habitat.
So, I mean,
bunny rabbits.
Hey, yeah, it's like, what the rabbits? So, I mean, it was just one of those things. And, again, following the rules, you follow the rules. I have no problem. You do whatever you want. Don't follow the rules and cause my kid to get sick. You're going to see Mr. Chris get really upset. And I'm a naturally calm and cool and collective person, especially at Disney. But if you do something that's definitely against the rules, and it's against the rules, and you cause one of my kids to get sick, yeah, I hope I'm not wearing a logo wear shirt at that time.
Someone brought up a point. I'm just trying to find it, but so I want to give credit to who it is, but whatever. Sorry, I can't do that. Do you think people are going to smoke in the gondolas?
Do I think they are?
Yeah.
I think they'll try to get away with it.
I mean, open air, you're up above. I mean, so I'm saying, like, I don't know. And not saying whether they took away the smoking section or not, was that going to change? People are always going to press their luck with things. I was just curious how you felt about that.
About which part?
If you thought people were actually going to try. I'm saying whether they did or did not take away a smoking section. I was just curious.
I think that it's a very distinct possibility that they're going to be able to try to smoke in the gondolas. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have non-smoking stuff, signs and everything else like that. But
the bathrooms are going to be like a Cheech and Chong concert.
Well, that's what Trisha was saying. That's what Trish was saying. And, she's like, it's going to be like, they're going to play like Smoking in the Boys Room by, Motley Crue or whatever it is. And in the background, and because it's going to be like, it's just going to
so like Chris says, they have smoke detectors. Now that's for a regular cigarette. I will tell you that you need a lot of smoke from a vapor pen to set off a smoke detector. I might from personal experience.
The thing of it is, it's kind of funny because I really want to test that theory, because lately I've only been able to tell that breakfast is ready by when the smoke detector goes off. So far, it's happened to be twice this week. And for some reason, the smoke detector turns off after I walk up to it with a big long stick, getting ready to poke at it to stop it. I go, it stops. Anyway, I'd love to see someone come up with a vape pen and just go and see if it goes off, just because I want to test that theory. But, the thing is that I do think, I think Murray's right. I think so. Well, Chris mentions about the smoke detectors, what kind they're going to have in there. Mary brings up, I think people will just kind of push the envelope and smoke where they want. I don't. Here's the thing. I think you're going to see that maybe throughout the month of May, and I think after a while, after a while we're going to see people stop doing it because it's going to be enforced better and better. So it's just one of those things, and I really do think that it's going to be an issue at first. I think eventually people will learn to adapt. People are not going to stop coming to Disney full on to the point where it's going to impact Disney's bottom line. I hate to say it like that.
I said that from day one when this all came out, and I was on a rant about the smoking. It doesn't. You know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Disney is printing money, printing it. This is not going to affect them.
I think Melissa here makes a very good point. And I understand the tone in which she says this. I'll go ahead and repeat this for everybody. People just need to educate themselves with the do's and don'ts before going, and just be a good patron and follow them, meaning the rules, period. It's just called being a good patron and being a good human. And I get it. It's one of those things where you have to learn the rules. If you make a mistake, okay, fine. Because you know what? There are still people that go to Disney every single day, that they do a lot of research, or they think they do a lot of research, that they still make mistakes because they forgot a couple details. And there's going to be smokers and, smokers and stroller users and ice people, and that are going to not realize that these rules are in place because they forgot a detail. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of warnings pushed out in May. There's got to probably be communications that are placed in hotel rooms. I know that, stroller companies they're going to be making announcements to different things. You just kind of have to pay attention when you go. And I think everybody who's listening to us and everybody in the general Disney Facebook community basically need to kind of speak up that if you know somebody that's going to Disney, especially if they're going for the first time, it's probably going to be a very good public service if you try to kindly convey some of these things to them so they're not caught off guard. And if they already know about it, great. If they don't, you just help them prevent an embarrassing moment. That's the way I see it. You can be a good fellow Disney guest even while you're not at Disney. So
Chris wants to know when we're going to address the real problem, and that's no kids on the shoulder. So let me tell you a little story. I've never been on board with you guys saying like, oh, no, don't put your kids on your shoulder. I never really had experienced it, so I never really saw the problem in it. Oh, yeah, saw the problem this weekend. It was not fun. I was mad. And I'm 6'1", so I can kind of look past people.
I have to ask,
what happened?
What happened?
So we were watching Happily Ever After. Everything was great, and they were kind of pushing us like cattle, like move forward. And all of a sudden, this family that was next to us kind of, I guess because me and Nick are broad human beings. We're both, he's 6'4", I'm 6'1". We're built wide. So we take up a lot of height space, for people's eyesight. So they kind of snuck around us, which was fine. Everything was good. He was holding his son, no problem. The minute the show went on, boom, kid up on the shoulders. And then he would start to get like tired. So he would or his back would hurt. So he'd be putting one arm up like this, shifting it over with the other arm. So now Lindsay has never seen Happily Ever After, so we're trying to shift her so she can get a good eyesight. Jessica's trying to see it, and it literally, I was like, all right, I get that your kid is really short and can't see it, but just hold the kid in your chest so he can see it. There's no reason to pop him up on the shoulders. So I finally agree that is a problem that needs to be talked about.
Well, I guess you could say this. I appreciate the fact that now you see what I'm getting at from a firsthand experience, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating as all get out. And at the same time, it's dangerous. and it is just one of those things that really kind of irritates the snot out of me. You know, I won't go down that rant right now, but I do think that there is a level of every parent wants to make sure that their kid can see a parade, a fireworks show, this, that, and the other. I will tell you that when my daughter was young during the first trip, I wanted to make sure she had everything. But I wasn't going to put her on my shoulders because I wasn't going to block anybody. And at the same time, when my daughter was young, like 3 years old or something like that, I had her on my shoulders. And then she decided to try to get off of my shoulders. And she twisted my back. And I'm like, yep, she ain't ever gotten on my shoulders since then. Of course, now she's in her 20s. I think it's kind of weird to have her on my shoulders. But that's a whole different story. But, you know, it's just, I think people are, you know, don't realize and how distracting it is to others. I understand you want your kids to be able to see. Yes, I understand you've spent a lot of money to do that. Guess what?
So did the person behind you.
So did the person behind you. So did I did, you know, or I do, and this, that, and the other. So we'll just have to see how it goes.
So since we're not going to touch on the trip because I had a feeling that these three things were going to spark a deep conversation, we could touch on that on Thursday. Do you mind if I touch on something that popped up yesterday, or actually, early today, last night, whatever the case is?
Yeah.
That was super exciting.
Okay, sure. What's up?
So Disney Villains After Hours to take place at Magic Kingdom on select nights during the summer. Oh, man. If it's still going on when we're there, we might have to do this.
I saw that and I'm like, ooh, that's going to be kind of interesting to see how that goes. It's almost like an after hours event that's finally got a theme to it.
Yeah, it won't be there when we're there, but let me just run through this real quick.
Yeah.
Disney's After Hours is a popular nighttime event for guests who enjoy experience Magic Kingdom Park after the sun goes down. Disney has announced that some of the Disney villains are going to be added a wicked twist to the Disney's After Hours event from June 6th through August 8th. One of the things that makes this event so special is that it's only open to a limited number of park guests each night. Much lower wait times are typically encountered at more than 20 attractions and experience after the park closes to the day guests. Classic attractions such as Haunted Mansion, Jungle Cruise, Pirates of the Caribbean, Space Mountain, to the newer favorites like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, plus many more open for enjoying. Those who purchase tickets to this event are permitted to enter the park as early as 7 p.m., providing time to enjoy fireworks before heading off to the attractions. Ice cream, novelties, popcorn, and select bottled beverages are also included in the cost of admission. Disney Villain After Hours will boast an entertaining villains theme, including exclusive entertainment, food and beverage, merchandise, and more. Here is the sneak peek. A brand new Disney villain stage show that's going to have Hades and Meg from Hercules that will set the castle stage ablaze in an all-new stage show, Villains Unite the Night, which will also feature appearances by Jafar, the Queen, Maleficent, and more. They also have Spot, Maleficent the Dragon. Maleficent the Dragon, with her steampunk style and signature wicked grin, will let loose for the first time at night, breathing fire. She creeps through the park as a one-of-the-kind experience for party guests. They have a Villainous Enchantments, discover surprising villain-inspired additions at Pirates of the Caribbean and Space Mountain. Wickedly Good Food and Beverage, a variety of special food and beverages offering, will also be available for purchase, including tasty desserts, drinks and dishes inspired by the Queen, Cruella de Vil, Maleficent, Hades, Dr. Who's that? Phil.
Did you say Dr. Phil?
Dr. Facilier. I've never heard of that character. Why am I drawing a blank?
I don't know.
Okay. And Emperor Zurg. Oh, my God. I can't believe Emperor Zurg's going to be there.
Oh.
That made the ticket right there worth it. Event merchandise. Attendees can also purchase new logo merchandise as well as items from the curated collection of the best Disney villains merchandise available. One notorious item to note: ever driven to stand out in the unpredictable and fashion with the villains will be entertaining guests in a new stage show. They will not be participating in the character greets during the show. Some of the dates. Oh, let me give you the price first. Disney Villains After Hours tickets cost $139 plus tax in advance, $144 on the night of the event. And let me tell you, it should sell out. These are the dates. Thursday, June 6th, Thursday, June 13th, Thursday, June 20th, Thursday, June 27th, Monday, July 1st, Thursday, July 11th, Thursday, July 18th, Thursday, July 25th, Thursday, August 1st, and Thursday, August 8th. Annual pass holders and DVC members can take advantage of a $30 discount and purchase tickets for $109. Tickets for these specific Disney Villains After Hour events will go on sale starting April 29th.
Okay, don't get me wrong. This is not a criticism. This is an observation. Isn't that more expensive than the current Disney After Dark?
I don't think by much.
Okay.
Maybe $20 more. I do know that After Hours, Brian, who's a big contributor in the WDW community, he is a big advocate for them. And I know he goes often, and he says that it is worth every penny. Because I guess, I mean, I would say it's probably worth every penny. Well, I would, because that's basically what a ticket for the day is. You're getting less hours in the park, but you're getting more availability in the park.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a wash.
Well, the thing is that it's one of those, it's a special event. I mean, let's face it. It's not one of those things. I mean, to me, I've gotten past the idea of whether or not these things are money grabs, and I'll tell you why. I don't need to go to these things in order to have a great time, but they do sound like it's a very interesting type of event. And I think that's, DVC members really do get a nice discount on that this time. And, kind of like what John was saying, people have been asking for more villains. So here you go. And, I mean, let's face it. Everybody wants villains. They've been talking about villains. They want a villains park and this, that, and the other. This is just feeding into that. And it's kind of going to be that summer gap between, some of the other things that are going on right before the holidays or Halloween season. So there you go.
So touching on another quick thing, this is, according to our research, is already sold out. So check for cancellations. But Woody's Roundup Barbecue coming to Disney's Contemporary Resort July 4th through the 6th. Sheriff Woody and his Toy Story pals are heading to the Contemporary to put up a shindig, which will feature games, crafts, and barbecue goodness. The holiday weekend celebration will be offered July 4th to the 6th at 6:15 p.m. and will run through 9:15 p.m. And the scene will be set as larger-than-life recreation playset of Woody's Roundup, a rustic Wild Western town. Woody, Jesse, Bullseye, and Buzz Lightyear will be on hand, and guests can sing and dance as Mr. Microphone plays some of Woody's favorite tunes. A couple of things we're going to be doing: a trick roping demonstration, camp-style carnival games, Toy Story craft station. A balloon artist will be roaming around and creating favorite Toy Story balloons. Guests will experience the following fireworks shows from the Contemporary, which provides a spectacular view. Each show begins approximately at 9:15. Let's see, July 4th, a Disney Celebrate America, a 4th of July concert in the sky. July 5th and 6th will just be Happily Ever After. And here is the menu we have here. We've got a grilled boneless chicken breast with thighs and roasted peach, fire roasted vegetable cakes served with chipotle, low and slow smoked pork ribs, barbecue beef brisket carved. Some of the sides, we have a fresh cornbread and honey butter, mixed greens with balsamic vinaigrette and roasted pepper ranch dressing, sweet cream coleslaw, Southern-style potato salad, grilled seasoned vegetables with splash of smoked olive oil, and then they had the vegetarian campfire chili. The desserts are salted caramel cookie bars, assorted sliced fresh melon, red, white, and blue push pops, cherry pie shots. For the children, we have a garden salad with ranch dressing, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, butter corn kernels, steamed hot dogs, creamy Mickey Roni and cheese. That's so cute how they wrote that. Chicken fingers with barbecue sauce and honey mustard, potato barrels, and assorted cookies and brownies. Beverages, juice, milk, and assorted libations, including premium adult options for guests 21 years of old. And now here is the bad part. Well, two bad parts. One, it's sold out. Two, the event will be held in the Fantasia Ballroom at Disney's Contemporary Resort. The price is $149 for ages 10 and up, $99 for ages 3 to 9. Tax and gratuity are included. Disney dining plan entitlements may not be redeemed for this event. Discounts and promotions are not available. Not worth it.
Wow.
Not worth it. Not what they're giving you. Not for what they're giving you.
Okay, just a little bit of a. I'm gonna. Gosh, I'm having a hard time because I can't believe $150 for an adult. Let me tell you something.
That's $300 for a couple without bringing their kids.
And I spent less than.
It's sold out.
You know how much I spent for 3 of us at the Yachtsman Steakhouse with tip?
What'd you spend?
Only $225.
That's not bad at all.
No, for 3 of us, and that was with a really nice tip too. And you know, it got a fabulous experience. Let me tell you that right now. That's something we'll definitely be sharing on a very closely coming up show. But that's a lot of money for that sort of thing. And kind of like what Aaron said here, man. And $100 for tykes. Yikes. You know, I mean, that's just seriously. You find me a freaking 3-year-old that could eat $100 of food.
Especially that food. What is that kid going to want? PB&J, brownies, and maybe some of the macaroni and cheese. That
PB&J better be laced with gold flakes, pal. That's the only thing. Yeah,
that balloon artist better build me the house from up and let me fly away. That's the only way it's worth that money.
I have to say, I mean, I love what Albert says. At that price, it makes Le Cellier cheap. Dude,
but somehow it's sold out in less than a day.
Hey, at that price, it makes Victoria and Albert seem cheap.
I've been checking for cancellations. I mean, I'm not going to be there, so. But once again, that's not worth it. That is something I want to talk about on our next show. So I think we should wrap up here. So I'm going to leave. We'll do this. I'm going to leave everybody with a question to think about for the next 2 days. We always talk about dining plan and how expensive everything is.
Right.
When does Disney become too expensive till you say, I can't do this anymore? So just think about that one, chew on that one a little bit, come back with a solid answer on Thursday. Because on Thursday, we're going to be diving into Chris and myself's review. And that's as long as nothing major breaks between now and Thursday, which keep our fingers crossed, nothing happens because I really want to talk about the trip.
Yeah. Besides, don't forget, if news breaks, we're going to fix it.
Take us away.
You heard the show, and we hope you want more. Well, feel free to join us over at our social media platforms. Instagram and our Facebook page can be found at Behind the Ears Podcast. Our webpage is behindtheearspodcast.net, and our email is behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @BehindTheEarsPC. And come and join the conversation about all things Disney over at the WDW community page. Don't forget to rate and review the show over at iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it really helps us get the word out about the show. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or the Podbean app. Also, you can listen to us on Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and via Alexa and Google Home.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into another episode of Behind the Ears Podcast. I am Uncle Danny. That was Mr. Chris. Follow us on all our social media platforms. Don't forget, you can catch us live on Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday at 9:45 p.m. Eastern-ish. Emphasis on the ish. Trisha would kill me if I didn't mention this. Please head on over to Facebook and join the WDW Community Facebook page. It's a simple 2 questions just to verify you're not a robot. And a 1 question. We're down to 1. We started at 3. Down to 1 question just to make sure you're not a robot. Come check out the No Drama page. We got about 4,000 members strong. It's a good time. But yeah, with that being said, it was a pleasure to be on vacation. It is a pleasure to be at home, back in the studio, hanging out with everybody. So until Thursday, I hope you all have a safe and wonderful week. Don't forget to tuck your kids in tight, wear your seatbelts, and tip your waitress. I'm Uncle Danny. Until next time.
And I'm Mr. Chris. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. We really appreciate everybody's love and support. It was great meeting a lot of you last week when we were in the parks. I mean, it was wonderful having people run into us and talk to us about the show and this, that, and the other. A lot of people got swag and stuff like that, and it was just really, really cool to meet many of our listening audience there. I'll tell you what, can't wait till the next show, because the next few shows are going to be filled with a lot of really good, interesting programming. If Danny and I are probably not going to be able to touch base on all of our vacation items on the next show, we'll probably have to break it up a little bit, because he and I did Disney differently, very much so the case, because of just how our plans lined up and this, that, and the other. Being that we also met up with Nick and Jess at the same time, we did things together. We did things separately. We have different. We wanted to exchange some different notes on our resorts and meals, because we did eat at some of the same places. It's going to be really cool, interesting compare and contrast. You are not going to want to miss it. Don't forget to also subscribe to us over on our YouTube channel. If you haven't, I actually put a little video out there. It's a little on the rough side, I'm going to admit, but it shows some of the Skyliner cars being tested, and I thought it was really pretty cool. Sorry it's a little shaky. Sorry it's a little windy, but hey, it's a video. What can I tell you? So I hope everybody has an absolutely fabulous day, but until we meet again, I hope everybody has a magical day. Take care.